What's up, guys? It's Matt Vogt. Welcome back to the Lifestyle Practice Podcast. At TLP, together with my partners Derek and Steve, we are passionate about helping dentists like you all elevate your lives and careers through practice ownership. If you're someone who's looking to take your life to the next level, head on over to our website, thelifestylepractice.com, and fill out our free lifestyle and practice assessment. Your responses will come to our inboxes, and Derek, Steve, or I will reach out to you with some personalized insight and to get the conversation started. So it's great to be back with you all. We're getting a glimpse of spring here in Indianapolis, which is good for the mentals, as they say. And I'm sure we'll get some snow here in March and April, and be right back in the depths of winter for a little while. But hey, it is what it is here in the Midwest. But anyway, tonight I was eating dinner and thinking about recording the podcast, and I really didn't have any a topic nailed down yet. So I'm sitting there with my wife and our now 1-year-old daughter. I'm like, all right, so what should I talk about on the podcast tonight? Like, help me brainstorm here. And we didn't really arrive on anything dental specific. We just kind of ended up talking for a little while about our journey as a family through practice ownership. And it kind of clicked, and I said, you know what, this is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the effects of ownership on family. And this is a really interesting topic because when I was, a younger dentist, or even in dental school, I had all these thoughts and dreams and curiosities about ownership, but I never viewed it in the lens of how it would affect those around me. I'll be honest. I mean, at this point, I wasn't married, and if we're going back to dental school, wasn't married. Obviously, didn't have children, and everything was very kind of self-centered in a way. But the choices we make, not just in dental practice ownership, but in life, obviously have a ton of an effect on the people around us, especially families or growing families. And you all know I like to be very open and honest on the podcast. And the one thing I hate about, like, when you're listening to a podcast, whether it be about business or whatever, and things are just looked at through rose tinted glasses, and the struggles or difficulties kind of get breezed over. And I think it's really important, if you all are out there and listening to this. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you are owners. I know a lot of you are aspiring to be owners. There are some difficult things about ownership, and its effect that it can have on your family life. Owning a dental practice, an awesome dental practice, or getting it to an awesome level, whether that's acquiring it or starting one from scratch, it's hard. If it were easy, everybody would do it, and there wouldn't be a reward at the end. If we could all just own practices and it was the easiest thing in the world, then every single dentist would do it. And I know I'm stating something very obvious here, but it is very hard work to become an owner, to grow your practice, to have something that is awesome and not burdensome on the rest of your life. I can say, having gone through what feels like the process of this over the better part of a decade, that the reward at the end, not necessarily even the end, but the reward in creating, something awesome or growing something awesome, is so worth the struggle and the hard work and the late nights and the sleepless nights and the moments of wondering, did I make the right decision? Questioning yourself. It is so worth it. So again, I want to talk through that and kind of give you all a glimpse, because I never want our podcast or our TLP content to ever express that ownership is going to be smooth sailing and perfect from the get-go. I don't think we've done that, but I like talking about these things and being open and honest with you all, and vulnerable in a way. You all, kind of know my story, and that I've wanted to do a scratch startup from the get-go in dental school. And when I got out of dental school, my now wife, but my girlfriend at the time, we sat down and we said, okay, like, we are committed to each other. We weren't engaged at this point, but we're committed to each other. And we had some very real discussions about the risks and the implications of starting a business from nothing. And this would have been a similar conversation if I were acquiring a practice too. The communication was huge for us, and it was extremely important, because we sat down and we acknowledged, okay, this is going to be sacrifice, and we don't know how successful this will be, if it will be successful. We had confidence, but there was a ton of unknown. And right off the get-go, we accepted the unknown, and we talked practically about what that would look like. So for me, initially, getting the practice started, the initial planning, for the better part of a year, and then that initial period of opening the practice and just being in the trenches, we basically said, you know what, I have permission within our relationship to do whatever it takes, whether that means grinding 7 days a week, working clinically during the week and working on the weekends to do whatever it takes for what the business needs. I have permission within our relationship to do that. And that was huge for me, because I've never felt, or I rarely felt, in those tough times where very early on an employee quits at the end of the day. My one front desk team member a few months in, and all of a sudden it's 5 o'clock. Someone quits on the spot, and insurance claims need to be sent. Insurance needs to be verified for the next day. Reminders need to be made. Some emails need to be responded to, and it's me and my assistant. That's a very true story right at the beginning of my practice. And that was it was a moment where it's 5 o'clock at night. We're done seeing patients, or 7 o'clock at night at that point, and I've got to do all this. I've got to stay late. I just have to do it. It's what has to be done to accomplish my ultimate goal. And so I did it oftentimes. And was it fun? No. Did I want to necessarily do that? No. I wanted to get home and go to the gym, or hang out on the couch with my then girlfriend and watch Netflix. But this is what needed to be done. I knew deep down, because we had communicated well at the beginning here about what it was going to take, that there wasn't going to be resentment at home. There wasn't going to be like any guilt on my part, because I was just going to do what needed to be done. We acknowledged the financial implications of becoming a business owner very early on. I wasn't going to make money at the start. Breaking even was the initial goal with my scratch startup, and that happened very, very quickly, thankfully. But we knew that in this case, my girlfriend, my now wife, was going to have to financially support us, or be ready to, if for some reason the plan that we laid out didn't pan out for the practice. My wife was working, and she decided to, work a little bit more. And in this case, I decided to work an associateship on the side, to make sure that we would have what we needed to continue on and to live. I understand that that's not always a feasible situation for a lot of people, especially if you've got kids, or if your partner doesn't work or have the ability to. But that was a huge part of becoming an owner for me. A hugely important part is having the support of my partner, not just the financial support, but the emotional support, where we really did feel like we were in this together. And when I think back on, over the years of growing my practice, I always acknowledge my wife as being just as important as me, the business owner, in that success. So important, because when you're embarking on an ownership journey as a dentist, it's not just you who's making sacrifices, but it's going to be the people around you, the people that you love. Early on for me, and this experience is something that I know a lot of us share early on in ownership, was very difficult, or it had very difficult moments that might have been unexpected. I've talked about a lot of these on the podcast, but employees quitting, patient cases going south, and causing a ton of stress. There was a time, this was a few months after opening my doors, where a very, very anxious patient had a panic attack in the waiting room. We went through all the protocols, and this was before the patient even got in the chair, but we couldn't get this patient to get out of this panic attack, and we had to call an ambulance. So I'm in a brand new, or almost brand new business, and here I am, trying to grow, trying to become a pillar of the community, to show the community that I'm a great dentist, and I'm someone that everyone should be coming to see. And there's 2 fire trucks and an ambulance in my parking lot, with a bunch of people wondering what's going on when they come in and bring this patient out in the ambulance and take her to the hospital. I I cried. I legitimately did. I went to my office after she got in the ambulance, and I cried. It was very emotional. It was incredibly upsetting for me because I knew that the people watching didn't know that, this patient walked in the door, started to hyperventilate, and then had to leave and go to the hospital. Who knows what they would have thought? But they saw ambulances and fire trucks in front of my business that I'm trying to grow. That's not a great thing for people to see, to inspire confidence for them to come to your dental practice. And I went to the hospital that day and or shortly after, and made sure that patient was okay, and she's totally fine. But I mean, talk about a whirlwind day, canceling your afternoon patients, having this experience all go down, really not knowing what the heck to do and how to deal with all this, being a fresh new owner, and then coming home at night and trying to be present at home, trying to not dump these experiences onto my partner. And that was just as difficult as the experience in the office. We've learned over time something that works really well for my wife and I, to be very careful with our how we're talking to each other about stress and anxiety when it pertains to ownership. We are a support system for each other, and it's wonderful. But we've made sure to not just dump problems and dump anxieties on each other, because what we found would happen when we did this early on was we were just kind of becoming jointly anxious, or jointly stressed, without really thinking about how, the things that we were sharing with each other. And it was almost like we were being each other's therapists in a way. So now what we we make a very conscious effort to communicate in a supportive way, but not to just vent or dump things on each other. And that was a very productive tweak that we made to allow entrepreneurship and allow ownership to mesh more easily with family life. So over the years, what I've learned to do is to just deal with things on my own, deal with these things that occur in ownership that we all have to deal with, and not bring them home. The little decisions, the things that just don't really need to be talked about at home, I leave them at the office, or I leave them in my brain here. And what that's done, it's it's allowed my wife and I to maintain a husband and wife relationship, and not a therapist type relationship, which I think is really key. So now if I have a tough day at the office, and they happen, um, and my wife can sense it, I'm not going to bottle it up and say, no, I'm fine. Like, don't worry about it. It's certainly not like that. But it's just, usually what happens is it's just an honest, vulnerable moment where I say, you know what, it was a long day. It was a tough day, but all I want to do, right now, is go for a walk with you and our daughter. Or what I really need right now is like a half hour to go for a walk on my own, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to be totally present for the rest of the night. It's all good. Being able to open up and acknowledge these things, and again, communicate well with each other, it made meshing ownership with family life so much easier for us. And this is something that it was difficult for us initially. It felt like hard work, but then if you work on this, or as we've worked on it over the years, it's just kind of become second nature. So if you're listening to this and you haven't been in this situation, or this resonates with you, and you have been in the past, or you are right now, the best advice I can give is to expect tough days, to embrace the suck, if you will, when it happens, and to trust your process. If you've got a process, trust it, and know that these types of feelings, and these difficult days, and the things that you might be feeling, are all a part of becoming an owner. Once you set your expectations the right way, these things that I just described, those tough days, for whatever reason, they just become more acceptable. You accept them because you're like, yeah, this is what I expected. This is all part of it. And it becomes kind of like just another thing. It's not a big deal, versus living and dying with every success, every minor failure, every little thing, every patient case. It'll drive you nuts. And then in turn, if you're not careful, it'll drive your family nuts at home and cause difficulties there. Now, I hope that little story time didn't make me seem like a too much of a Debbie Downer, or make you feel sour on ownership and how it's going to affect your family, because overall, ownership has had an incredible effect on my family life, and I hope it does for you as well. Ownership does not have to be this constant grind forever. Truly, I think Derek did a podcast, and I actually made note of it. It was episode 236, how every year in dentistry can get easier, and I feel that as well. Over time, as you get the reps, as you stick to your process, and I feel the same way. Dentistry and ownership has gotten immensely easier, and the effect on my family that ownership has gotten better and better with every passing year. Obviously, there's financial benefits to ownership, but it's um, the autonomy benefits that you have that, if you play your cards right, can just be awesome for your family life, or your home life, or for whatever you want to do outside of dentistry. Sure, you have to be respectful and always be thinking about your business, your employees, and your patients. But a lot of the times in my practice, there may be some things on our calendar that we want to plan out early on in the year, and the practice schedule, or my clinical schedule, revolves around what I'm doing with my family or in my time outside the office. If we've got a vacation planned, or there's an event that that we want to attend, and it's later on in the year, I'm going to plan around that and do it very easily, just by saying, you know what, this is what I'm going to do. And the practice will be fine. The business will be fine, versus having to count PTO days, or, be worried about leaving the office B for a week while I go do something else. Now, it hasn't always been like that. I have awesome team members who I know I can count on to take care of the nuts and bolts whenever that happens. An awesome, clinical partner and associate to hold down the fort in my specific practice. But even before that was the case, and maybe my team was half the size, it was incredibly liberating to look at my business and say, hey, this is going well. I can afford to, or I can have the freedom to go do this thing with my family and not feel guilt, and not feel stress or pressure in doing so. I haven't shared this yet on the podcast, but my father is dealing with a pretty difficult cancer diagnosis. It's not great. And earlier on this year, amidst his treatment and his chemotherapy, there was a last minute opportunity to spend some really good time together. And he's still with us, and he's still battling, and I'm so proud of him. But this last minute opportunity, I was during the week. It was a time where I could get down to see him in Tennessee, and it would mean doing so on a Tuesday, Wednesday, when I was supposed to be in the office. And being an owner, having a great team, having great systems in my practice, having great relationships with my team members, and trusting them fully. I think it was Sunday or Monday, I said, hey guys, I got to go do this. I want to go do this. I trust you all to get patients squared away. I trust you all to run prescriptive hygiene while I'm gone. I trust you all. I legitimately sent an email, or talked to them the day before, and said, I trust you all to figure this out. I really can't even begin to think about like organizing the logistics of the practice, but I'm going to go and spend some time with my dad. And the awesome thing about having great people and great team members is I felt so much support when I did that. And I felt so much calm. It almost made the experience and the time with him that we were able to spend even better. It definitely did. But I'll be honest, early on, and as I was growing my business, if I'd made that same decision, I would have been under a mountain of stress, wondering what patients would think when their appointments got canceled, wondering how my team would react, and basically having to do all this work to get things, figured out or squared away with me being gone. But ultimately, at the end of the day, being an owner and having a great practice and great people afforded me the luxury of saying simply, I trust you all to let me go do this. What's really neat about having a practice that operates like this is, if done the right way, your lifestyle practice can be a lifestyle practice for your team members as well. And that is the best culture boost that you could ever give to your team. And what I mean by that is, it was not too long ago, my longtime lead hygienist, Justine, we were just chatting about kids. And she said, you know what? I feel like over the years, I'm paraphrasing a bit, but she's like, I feel like over the years, you've just understood more and more how important family life is for all of us. In that if someone has a sick kid, you're not going to make someone feel guilty for going to take care of them or staying home with them. Or if something comes up that's important to somebody, like a school field trip, you're going to help make it so that they can go do that guilt-free, take a day off from the office, and everyone on the team is going to pick up the slack and be happy for them and support them in that way. And that meant so much to me. It was one of my favorite moments and interactions with a team member that I can remember, because at the beginning, you own a business, you think you're going to own a business, and again, you think about it you can have a tendency to think about it in such a selfish light. And then you get into it and you create such wonderful relationships with team members, or at least I have. And you realize these relationships, these people that work with me each day in the office, means so much to me, and I care so much about their well-being and their goals, their dreams, their families, that I want them to feel just as good as I do about this practice. And obviously we have different roles: dentist assistants, hygienists, front desk, but it's something that I never thought would happen when I first got into ownership. I never thought I would care so much about the people that I work with every day. And the feeling of us all rowing the boat in the same direction is the absolute best feeling. The feeling of knowing I've got your back and you've got mine is nirvana when it comes to people that you work with in your dental office. So I guess I could sum all that up again and say, owning or creating an awesome dental practice is certainly not easy, especially at the beginning. But my goodness, is it worth it? It is so worth it. And although early on there can be stress and there can be sacrifice when it comes to your family life, if you stick to the process, if you have a plan and you're implementing that plan day by day and you're putting in the hard work, owning a great dental practice will be an incredible thing for your home life and your career. I can truly say that from experience. And I want to help you all do that if you are ready to go on that journey with me. And obviously, I'd love to help you all do that if you are ready to take that leap. You all know how to reach me, matt@thelifestylepractice.com. Feel free to shoot me an email, or again, go to our website, fill out that free lifestyle and practice assessment form. We love getting those in our inboxes, and that's such a great conversation starter for us to be able to help you all achieve what you want to achieve out of your life and career. Until next time on the podcast, I hope you all have an awesome week or an awesome day if you're listening this on your way into the office, and we'll talk to you again soon. Take care, everybody. See ya. Sicker than your average, sicker than your average. Sicker than your average, sicker than your average.